Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm actually excited to share about my Mandarin learning journey, and actually, I'm just a supplement to what was presented a while ago because I think it was already very fulfilling. So, special thanks to the first speaker for really walking us through the thoughtful experience and discussing in depth all the questions as well as how she prepared. And for now, I think I will bring you through a narrative on how I learned Chinese. Let's start with brief introductions. So, my name is Phoebe Ashley Ongchen. I'm actually a Filipino Chinese, and even though I live in the Philippines, I'm a purebred Chinese. But the problem is, in the Philippines, not many people speak Chinese because we have a local language. That is why when we're studying Chinese, we actually just forget it because we're not we're not really using it here in the country. So now I'm 23 years old and I'm working as an occupational therapist in a pediatric setting here in the Philippines. Being a Filipino Chinese, I was asked to study in a Chinese school, which is Chiang Kai-shek College, but I only reached HSK level 3. And if you could see a while ago, an equivalent is just level A1 to A2 in terms of TOCFL scores. Because of that, I actually had that motive to hopefully increase my Chinese levels afterwards. This led me to study in National Taiwan Normal University last year, actually, in September 24 to January 2025. And after studying, I actually got a surprising level of C1 as well. And this also came as a surprise because I'm actually someone who doesn't really stick to a formal learning schedule, but I just learn it by the flow. Okay, let's now go to my Mandarin learning journey. As I've said a while ago, my background is actually a Filipino Chinese who lives in the Philippines. My great grandfather lives in China, but we haven't been to China for a really long time. So although I was exposed to Chinese, I was really not motivated to learn. Surprisingly, I started to learn or be motivated to learn Chinese after being exposed to college. Because during that time, in our college, we're not studying in a Chinese school anymore. And it was surprising for me, and it's an eye opening experience to see that if you have another language, it gives you an advantage of automatically having a community with the Filipino Chinese peers. Furthermore, when I was working, I was exposed to a lot of Chinese partners, whether they're business partners or therapy kids, and they speak Mandarin. And it showed me how much important it was to be able to speak their language so that the efficiency of communication and the expertise of you presenting yourself towards them could greatly increase. This led to me having a goal, technically, of experiencing life abroad. Initially, I wanted to try to go to Asia because in my line of work, we value context a lot. That's why I feel that being in an Asian country, I want to go to another country that's around Asia as well, so that the culture will be the same. So afterwards, I also decided that I wanted to go to a Chinese-speaking country to immerse myself to the culture and language. And then going to the learning curve, I actually started to learn Chinese during the pandemic because during that time, everything was shifted to online method. And during that time, I was also exposed to much Chinese drama, similar to our first speaker a while ago, and I became interested in the language and the culture. And from that point onwards, I started seriously learning. Throughout my Mandarin learning journey, I actually only had a little formal training, which was first in my previous Chinese school. I learned that it gave a good foundation of my vocabulary and it springboard for my practical learning skills. Because even if I did not really diligently learn about it, but I think picking up the skills of listening or even the skills of learning the vocabularies, how to write the language, it helped a lot. And during that time, I was able to watch C drama and understand context of of what they were saying. And during that time, I believe that through context clues and through observation, I was able to pick up more skills and finally enroll in NTNU classes on conversational Chinese to be able to confirm or even to try to make myself eligible for the test. Afterwards, in terms of practical learning, I actually had many indirect learning strategies, such as listening to songs or podcasts or movies, writing some movie summaries, or even just speaking to my friends who are Chinese. Afterwards, it also helped me to read subtitles. Some practical tips that I tried to do is when I started to learn how to listen, I switched the subtitles from English to Chinese, and afterwards I'll try to break down the words and try to decipher what it means in English. So some tips that I want to give you in terms of learning Chinese is first to find your motivation. Maybe it might be that it increases your salary when you have the Chinese advantage, or it could help you effectively communicate with business partners. Or so for some, maybe it's for networking. They might like some Asian friends or they may like some Chinese friends, and speaking the language could really help him or help you to be able to communicate well. Um, Next, identifying your learning style would really help a lot. Personally, I find that the structured way of learning things not really apply to me. So if you're asking me to read a book or follow a curriculum of studying, I don't think that I would be able to pick up as much. But during that time, personally, I find that Chinese films were able to get my interest as well as help me kick off learning practical language skills. So actually, I remember starting off having difficulty as well with this one because I had biases in terms of like learning Chinese because I thought it technically is not interesting or it's just difficult. But during that time, when you have something that you are interested in and you add to that to your learning style, such as for my case, I like watching C-drama. So I started learning by changing the subtitles. I was able to pick up a lot. So afterwards, you could also maximize learning opportunities around you. For example, if you like listening to songs, maybe love songs or like any song that you like, you could try to find Chinese versions of it. Somehow it helps you understand like how language is used, how ways you can practically learn Chinese. And one of the ways I also try to use is, for example, if you use Google Maps or Waze, I try to switch the language into Chinese so that I'll be able to pick up my listening skills and I'll be able to hone my vocabulary. Next, I'll go to some helpful applications and learning resources that I've been using. For vocabulary and grammar, I use Google Translate and Pleco. So yes, I only use free applications. So far, I'm currently very satisfied with Pleco in a sense because you could draw the word that you're unfamiliar with, and then it could give you some results of what it means. Next, for Google Translate, it could help you translate sentences from English to Chinese, but you have to take note that it's not always accurate. Personally, I've tried using ChatGPT to translate, and I find it more helpful. But yeah, I think it's still better if you're able to use the language or learn these languages by yourself rather than just relying upon ChatGPT to do so. Next, in terms of listening and conversational skills, I found a podcast named Chinese Pod. It's actually a very helpful podcast to help you learn how to converse with peers. In this podcast, they actually just discuss any topic under the sun. For example, they talk about sports, they talk about the weather, they talk about politics, they talk about so many topics that in just a regular discussion so that you can adapt or pick up how they use their language, how they talk, what kinds of vocabularies they use, and how to adapt it in the local culture. In terms of Hello Talk, this application is actually a networking app, and it helps you find a conversational buddy so that you can learn how to speak in their language. When my friend was able to use this Hello Talk, he was actually paired to a Chinese partner, and his partner was actually learning how to speak in English. So during that time, they would converse with my friend, speaking to him in Chinese or typing his sentences in Chinese, and then his friend would reply back in English. In that way, they're able to correct each other. They're able to help each other improve in the language that they plan to improve on. Last but not the least, I would like to recommend these apps such as these apps that help you find some Chinese dramas that you might be interested in. Because personally, and relating to the first speaker a while ago, we find that Chinese drama helps us engage into the language better. So apps such as ITE, WeTV, which are Chinese apps, or even Netflix and YouTube, actually offer a lot of Chinese shows that you may be interested in exploring. So here are my personal tips in terms of learning the language. First is you have to really practice. But during practice, you can try to use different forms, such as personally, I find multisensory type of learning better. So I will try to read, I'll try to look, I'll try to watch, I'll try to listen, I'll try to write. I try it in different forms for me to be able to retain the information better. Next, I try to bank on my interests to ensure consistency. Some people may like cooking or watching sports, so maybe you could try looking for Chinese cooking videos or Chinese sports commentaries so that you'll be able to ensure your consistency in terms of learning the language. Next, having a language buddy really helps you in terms of correcting your use of language and to motivate you to continue. Personally, I find that if you have someone to talk to or someone to just communicate in Chinese, it helps you find the meaning and the relevance of learning the language. Lastly, you could also add small rewards for your progress, such as treating yourself to a snack if you finish your review material, or you could alternatively make the task rewarding. For example, something that I find rewarding is before when I had a celebrity, a Chinese celebrity that I like, I would try to write a fan letter to him to practice my Chinese skills. So let's now go to my TOCFL experience. First, let's go to why I chose TOCFL. So generally, I wanted to enroll before in a graduate program, and generally all schools in Taiwan require you a level of TOCFL B2 if you're enrolled in a program that is offered in Chinese. So that's actually to answer a question that a panel was able to ask a while ago. And during that time, I was already in Taiwan, so it was accessible during my stay. Furthermore, I found that TOCFL score results are acknowledged in some institutions in the Philippines. So my motivation to actually take this TOCFL exam was to beat my previous HSK 3 score, which is actually just TOCFL A1 to 2. It's also an added credential I could use for work and increase my chances to enroll in my desired master's program here in Taiwan when I plan to go back to Taiwan. So my TOCFL experience was actually mostly informal in terms of studying. So although in the formal side, I attended NPNU classes, took mock exams, took mock tests, but my informal learning was actually that more. And personally, I find it more productive and more effective for me. During that time, I was able to stay in Taiwan for 4 months. I conversed with Taiwan locals. I was able to be a translator to my friends who doesn't know how to speak Chinese. During that time, it pushes you to be able to expand your grammar, to be able to communicate and converse. I also try to take notes in Chinese, watch some Chinese shows, or visiting local Taiwan attractions, such as ordering food, when reading signages, or even just going and being immersed in the Taiwan environment. So during that time, I was able to sense and feel the practicality of learning the language. So it made me more motivated to be able to take this test. So before my TOEFL test, similar to the first speaker, I will also really highly encourage you to register now. Because if she got a slot still in Taipei, during the time I registered, I only got a slot that's in Taoyuan. It's really, really far from Taipei City. So when I was able to register, they also give you a receipt once you sign up. Then I would also want you to maximize the resources in the TOEFL website, such as in listening, reading, speaking, and writing. A while ago, the first speaker also gave us a sneak peek of how each level works. and I find it very helpful. Another thing that could help you and something that's very accessible is learning how to use the mock test because it shows you a sample of how the test would look like. And it would also give you a sample score on what you're able to get when in your current proficiency. Next, you have to be sure to bring your receipt once you go to the test site. In my case, I need to bring my passport, but for others, I think an ID would be enough. Next, you have to bring a ball pen and a tumbler for water jug. I would also advise you to bring just a small bag because the lockers or the cabinets to put your bags are not that big. So packing light could help you. During the test, I also recommend you to arrive around 30 minutes early to give leeway for some delays or anything that you want to do. For example, if you want to go to the toilet or you're still looking for your test venue, around 30 minutes is enough time for you to give as an allowance. Next, I would highly help, want you to remember to turn your phones off or turn it to mute mode during the test because once your phone rings, it would automatically give you a score of 0 during the exam. During the test, they'll also provide you a blank piece of paper for you to write down your keywords or anything that could help you in the test. Next advice is to really take your time. During my time, it was actually surprising for me, given that I didn't know that each test actually has different timelines. So during my time, when I was taking the test, I was actually surprised that 30 minutes into the test, I was actually alone in the room. But it turns out that the higher your level is, the more difficult the tasks are. That's why it takes a longer period of time. So if you see your classmates or your test mates leaving earlier, don't panic. Just take your time in taking the test. And lastly, please do review your answers before submitting. During that time, I took level C1 and I was able to test the listening and reading parts. In my listening part, something that I want you to note is number one, who said what, and number two is the main topic. Personal tips that I want you to remember is to write the notes down on the paper provided to you and try to pre-select the answer to prevent skipping it. This is for the listening part because the listening part of C1 is pretty long. So it might help to use whatever is available to you to help you remember what is being said. In terms of the reading, yes, you have to note the main topic and the key points. But the key points, the personal tips that I want you to remember here is first, scan the article for all the main topics. Then go directly to the first question and try to look for the things that are being asked for in the first question. Then you try to go back to the paragraph and try to look for the specific part that you're looking for. This could help you minimize the things that are not really necessary for that question and it saves a lot of time. And then you could repeat that for question number 2, question number 3, and onwards. In terms of practical application, actually, currently having that C1 score gave me a big advantage in terms of my work and my future life goals. Currently, as an occupational therapist, I encounter patients who are Mandarin speaking, and I was able to converse with them in a way that's effective and it gives a better intervention strategy. Now, I also serve as an interpreter in my family, in terms of my parents' business partners, or even in my church, because we are in the Filipino Chinese church. That's why we're able to need these translation skills. Next, I also highly value this score for me to apply to my ideal university when I go back to Taiwan. So actually, my future plans is starts with this coming September because I got accepted into a master's program in Taiwan. So technically, my plans in the future would involve exploring academic and career development in occupational therapy, and it would actually help to have another perspective rather than just the local ones. So that's why I chose Taiwan to be able to, number one, enhance my language skills, as well as number two, to be able to bring whatever advancements or whatever developments they have to my country one day. So my goal is actually to return to the Philippines and improve Filipino-Chinese healthcare collaboration because living in a third world country, there's still so much to improve in terms of healthcare. That's why I want to be someone who's able to at least bridge the gap with my language advantage so that this would be better facilitated. Okay, so actually my sharing ends here. Thank you very much for listening.